good evening, good evening, and welcome to the Position on Sports Talk Show Post. Live streaming on Facebook Live and from our Position on Sports Talk Show YouTube channel. We're a sports talk show made for the fans, from the perspective of fans, presented by lifelong sports fans. We will provide our opinions and positions on the hottest topics in sports. My name is Big Reg, and I'm joined this evening by my crew. We got J3 in the building. How you feeling, J3?
Feel refreshed. What's going on? How y'all doing?
Glad to hear you refreshed this evening, partner. We got Big Ed in the building. How you feeling, Big Ed?
I'm great. It's June 16th, Tupac's birthday, greatest MC ever. Hopefully he's resting in peace. Hopefully everybody having a good day.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. We got Professor A in the building. What's going on, brother? How you feeling this evening?
What's going on, everybody? I feel refreshed and renewed in my soul, and you know it's coming. Praise the Lord. Let's get it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Amen.
J Minnie, glad to have you
Hi.
back. How you feeling, J Minnie?
I'm feeling really good, especially because my birthday's next week.
All right.
And last but not least, continuing on our topic from last week about the movement of social justice reform, we've got a special, very special guest this evening. In the building with us this evening, we've got Chief Anthony Ayers, Chief of Police of the Cottage City Police Department, also former Chief of Police, Capitol Heights Police Department, both in Prince George's County, Maryland, retired Prince George's County police officer, and I believe also former Navy man. We appreciate all your service. Chief Ayers, thank you for joining us this evening. We appreciate you coming.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, this evening we're going to continue our discussion on the social justice reform movement, its effect on sports and the world in general. We're also going to talk about sports leagues' plans on trying to reopen. Seems like we're going to hit a couple of hiccups that people didn't think about. Name, image, and likeness. NCAA. Florida passed a bill last week that's going to change the game. So we're going to hit that. Some other things that caught our eye. And of course, our final post of the evening. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Post on the Positional Talk Show channel. So Chief Ayers, again, thank you for coming on this evening. And we want to let everybody know that not only is Chief Ayers a fine official and an absolute version of what a good police officer is in this community, I got to be honest, he's also a personal friend. So we're going to let everybody know that Chief Ayers and me and J3 go back a while. But Chief Ayers, we want to give you the floor. And first and foremost, tell us about how the last 3 weeks have affected you and how you see things that have been going on in this country. First as Chief Police, also as a law enforcement official, as a father of law enforcement personnel, and just as a black man in general, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. I was raised in Peppermill Village in Capitol Heights. And back in the day, we used to get harassed by police by hanging out on the basketball courts after dark. Sometimes we'd be on the corner just talking and stuff. And so I know how people felt when they get stopped by the police. You get that fear, you feel that unease. That's one of the reasons why I became a police officer, because I wanted to become a police officer to change the way people felt about the police and see that we can actually do more for our people by having people of our color in the police department. But I saw that we had some pitfalls early on in my career as a Prince George County police officer. And being saying that is that I saw a lot of things that were good things that officers were actually doing their jobs. But I saw a couple of the officers doing things that I thought was inappropriate to the point where I had to actually come up with a role play program to show my brothers and sisters of color on how to deal with police officers. It was a citizen and police role play program I put on early on in my career, when I was going to schools as well as talking to young adults in the community, as well as family members on how to react or act when you get stopped by the police. And it's a shame that you had to go that route, but I had to because in the beginning of my career, I saw a lot of innocent people get charged with minor charges because they just questioned the police, like disorderly conduct. I saw that being used or abused a lot. We had a lot of young people getting charged with that because they would question the police, and the police, hit them with that because they got loud and very boisterous. Because people of color, we tend to speak with our hands a lot or get very loud when we feel passionate about something, and it pretty much sometimes get the officers rattled to a point where they feel like they're being threatened or feel like their authority is being threatened to the point where they will lock you up for disorderly conduct. So because I saw that and saw officers abusing people, so not all of them, but some of them, I came up with that role play program to actually show people how to react or how to submit. And I hate to say that because we should submit to no one, but sometimes I try to teach people you got to pick and choose your battles. I'd rather you submit. And even if you think the officer doing something wrong, just go with the flow. Just say yes sir, no sir. Get yourself away from that scenario so you can go ahead and go home in peace and be alive or not being in prison. Well, once you get home, I taught these individuals on how to report bad officers by calling in, how to go into the police station and fill out a complaint form, how to follow it through, how to make sure that it's being dealt with in a meaningful time period. Because I want people to be armed with tools in their toolbox to feel like, at least I can come back in to report that officer for doing something wrong to me. Because you want to empower people. You don't want to get the people to say, well, I had to submit to it, and then I have no land to stand on to actually fight this. And I want to give them a tool to fight back, but in a way where they can be safe in their homes or with someone representing them going into a police station to give that information to report that officer. Because I consider myself a good officer. And I know a lot of friends of mine are good officers. And when we come to a scene, I can't go up to you and say, hey, what happened here? If I see you fighting another officer, I'm gonna have to step in to do my job, protect that officer and go ahead and move forward. I can't have time to go ahead and say, sir, what happened? What did the officer do to you to do this? Or what's going on? So we have to make sure that we, at this moment, because I want you to make sure that you go home, submit, answer the questions. Keep mindful that you need just two things: time and location, because everything is documented. They won't get on the radio, trust me, because some of them are scared, and it's procedures that we have to get on the radio and give out our location. You only need time and location. Most police departments don't have badge numbers on their badges. You ask for their name. Sometimes you get officers that have an attitude and you ask for their name. Just get time and location. We know who's working out there on the radio. We know what area it was in. If they had to put out a spreadsheet to go ahead and identify the officer later on, a photo spread, you can do it then. But I just want to make sure that people get home safely.
That's some good information. That's some real good information. Now, you mentioned have training people how to make sure that they get home safely, and how can we go to that next level and not have to worry about having to train, especially our young Black boys, our young Black females, about giving them the talk about dealing with police officers when some of the other communities don't necessarily have to do that? Because it seems like from information I've been reading, it seems like you're right. Some people say either cops are scared because they're in communities that they're not from, or some of them have this, they call it the warrior mentality. Could you speak on that any?
Well, yeah, I think the problem we have with most inner city police departments is that we can't recruit within our own community for a couple of reasons. First of all, we don't spend time with our youth to show them how to stay out of debt at an early age. Because the main thing you have to do or have to become a police officer is decent credit. And a lot of these young people, they get in debt very early. not by their fault alone. Sometimes it's just school loans. I mean, I have some people, it hurts me to my heart, that have tried to put themselves to college, and they might default on their loans, student loans, and they get disqualified for that. That has to be changed. Another thing too is the use of drugs. It got to the point where it's so bad that, well, when I first started, you couldn't use drugs at all. That means if you smoke marijuana or attempt to smoke marijuana at one time in your life, you get disqualified. Now, I think it's within the last 3 years. So they're trying to loosen up that a little bit to try to get people inside the area. But we need to talk to our youth about keeping their options open at an early age, because a lot of them are closing their doors very quickly. Another thing too is when you recruit outside your area. We were recruiting in a larger agency like Prince George's County. We were recruiting in Pennsylvania, parts of Ohio, some parts of West Virginia, where some of these individuals never saw a black person other than TV. And I'm being real with that. And so you bring them into this area where there's a culture shock to them, to a point where they don't know how to relate or talk to black people. And the only relationships they see is the way blacks are portrayed on TV and movies, on shows, on the news. And they really don't understand that we are human beings. I mean, not animals. You talk to me the way I want to be talked to. I want to be talked to as a man, not as something less than that. And that's the problem we have with some law enforcement officers. They talk down to people, and they wonder why people are bucked back, because I'm a man. You need to talk to me like I'm a man. If my wife is stopped, she's a woman. You need to talk to her as a woman, not as a thing or a animal. So it's a mindset that they think they could talk to us any kind of way they want to. And then when we do question it, or we go ahead and say, you can't talk to me that way, or why are you stopping me, it becomes an issue. So I think what happened just recently is a turning point for us, because right now we have more people of other ethnic groups and also other groups coming together to actually fight against this, because they saw that they finally seeing what we've been talking about for years. This is not something new. We've been complaining about this for years, ever since I was a little boy. Since my parents had some things they talked to me about when I was younger. We've been experiencing this, and they don't understand what we're talking about. But now they see it, because all these cameras out there now, body cameras on police departments now, they're seeing it constantly now, and they're saying, well, now we see it. But we have to understand that recruiting is an issue, training is an issue. We are hiring people that want it as a job. You got to realize that I believe law enforcement is a calling. It's almost like the priesthood. It's a calling. Not everybody can do it. You have to have heart. You have to be able to communicate with people. You have to be able to. I'm not saying that I'm reckless, that I'm running to anything, but I'm talking about I know how to talk to people. Treat people the way you want to be treated. At the same time, don't fear people because you don't know them. Get to know them by talking and communicating. Another thing too is our unions are too strong. I keep on telling people that the main problem we have with police agencies across the nation is our unions are so strong and intimidating that our people that make the laws in the states, they fear it. They fear crossing the FOP. And I'm being honest, I'm being real with that. And that's why we have rules with police departments now where we have to wait 10 days. We can actually opt out for 10 days before they question us. I think that's ridiculous. Why you need to take 10 days to question an officer? So those things are some things that need to be changed. Yes.
Chief Ayers, thanks for joining us tonight. And you answered, I was going to ask you one of the questions, and you just answered it about the FOP. I have two questions. One of the things that you mentioned earlier, a couple things. The first thing is, I'll ask the questions and then see if you can answer them. Have you ever been conflicted with the community that you grew up in and the professional obligations that you've been sworn to carry out? That's the first question. And also, you also mentioned that some recommendations you give people when they encounter officers. But you did say that when you first arrive to a scene, and if you see something, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you see something, your first inclination is to protect the officer.
Right.
And as that relates to what we witnessed recently, as far as in Minneapolis, would you say that those particular individuals, or if that scenario played out within your department, how do you protect the person, the perpetrator, so to speak, when clearly the officer, as far as what I was seeing, was in the wrong?
Okay, let me clarify that. I'm saying that if I'm arriving on the scene and you fight my officer when I'm arriving on the scene, I'm not saying I was on the scene from the whole thing. I'm talking about if I show up to the scene and it's already started, the scenario already started, and you fighting an officer and I'm pulling up, I have to protect the officer because I don't have time to go to you and say, what did the officer do to you?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Now, if I'm on the scene, I have done that. Matter of fact, Washington Post put me in the paper in 2001 in reference to me calling out an officer. And going back to your first question, I worked my area that I grew up in my whole career. When I came on the police department, I went to District 3 for a reason. I went back to my community to work my community because I want them to have an officer that understood them and an officer that was going to protect them. I went back to Peppermill Village. I went back to Capitol Heights. Went back to Forestville where I grew went to high school. Those are areas I worked. District 3, my whole 20 years in the police department, I was in District 3, which is Landover, Palmer Park, Kentland, over there in Forestville, Capitol Heights, Suitland, District Heights. That's the area that I worked my whole 20 years. I'm not afraid of my people. I love my people. I trust my people, and I respect my people. And when you do that, you'll have a safe career. The problem I have is when you don't understand the people you're involved with, that's when you fear. You fear the unknown. Well, I teach my officers at Capitol Heights as well as College City as the chief of police. I teach my officers, don't wait till a person get in trouble to talk to them. I encourage my officers to get out of the car. When you see kids at the basketball court, get out, go over and talk to them. Say, hey, man, you look kind of tall. You play basketball? What school you go to? Oh, okay. You play on ball for them? Let me know next time you have a basketball game. I'll come and see you play. And just talk to them about, current events like sports. Say, hey, what team you like? Just talk to them. And they build a rapport. So next time you see them and they're hanging out in the corner, you can go ahead and address it. Say, hey, Kevin, do me a favor. You got to get off the corner, all right? All right, Officer Tony, I got you. Because you got a rapport. That's called street creds because I built a relationship with them before they got in trouble. You can't go ahead and stay in your car and drive past them all day and then all of a sudden get a call on them and get out your car and say, get on the hood, spread your legs. Where you coming from? Man, hey, man, you pass me every daggone day in your cruiser. And now you want to press me out? I'm just sitting here with my friends talking. You see what I'm saying? See how it gets negative very quickly? But if you just go and take that first initiative and get out and talk to people, roll your windows down, wave at people cutting their grass. How you doing, sir? Grass look nice. You're building rapport with people. Now, when you have to go ahead and say something to them because someone's called you to address that issue, they understand you're not there. Just go ahead and just press them out. You there to come up with a conclusion to that incident, trying to find out what happened and what's going on, and they respect you on that. I locked up plenty of people. Yes, I had pulled my gun out. I almost shot somebody once, but I never shot no innocent person. I never shot nobody without a weapon on them. I know a lot of people in my career that have gone 20 years, 25 years plus, and never had shot nobody. But then you have a few officers that have been in several shootings of not just armed suspects, unarmed suspects. And this in Prince George County. And I'm not talking about any other county. I'm talking about what I know. Several officers that got in shootings with unarmed individuals that were cleared and back on the street. When you have that many shootings, that shows me that you are scared to do your job. You're scared. Everything is getting you to a point where you have to pull a gun out. Every little scenario, you have to go up there and squeeze that trigger. Something's wrong about that. The problem I have with the Prince George County Police Department where I was there is that we had good officers complaining, but you get blackballed, you get threatened, you get almost turned away or overlooked when it's time for you to get promoted or go to a special unit because of something you say out your mouth or something you question. That's wrong. That needs to change. Right now, what happened just recently is giving officers the voice now they didn't have before, because a lot of us were saying stuff. We have people that lost their jobs. Like the young lady down in Texas, she lost her job just because she jumped on her partner's back because he was choking a guy out. She lost her job. We had a guy in California a couple years ago where he went ahead and he called in on an officer that was doing something wrong. They fired him. He went back and killed it over and over again to a point where he got tired of it and frustrated and started killing officers. Y'all remember that? That's happened in California. So what I'm trying to say to you is we are moving in the right direction. I think it's a turning point for us. I think there's a lot of things we can do to actually better it. But what we need to do is focus on a couple of things. The way we recruit, we'll make sure that we have good policies and procedures, that people understand them. Another thing, too, is we got to make sure we address stress management, because a lot of these officers are walking time bombs. I know what it is because I went through it. The only reason why I started coming up with a curriculum on that is because it happened to me, because I had pressures at home as well as at work, and I was walking around on edge. Every time somebody said something to me, it irritated me to a point where I was snapping on people. We have to learn how to manage our stress, and we have to make sure our first line supervisors are reading their officers. Because when I was with county police, we would have fights and roll call. They're fighting each other because they're joning and someone's having a bad day. Wow. And guess what the supervisor did? He sent that individual out on the street to work. If he can't handle joning in the daggone roll call room, what are you going to do out there on the street with somebody calling you all kind of names because they don't like the police? You feel me? And that's what's happening right now. So we have to make sure that we have a safe environment for our officers, that our supervisors can read our officers, and if they're not in the right state of mind, we need to send them home.
Wow, that's powerful. Two quick questions for you, Chief. One of our listeners asked a very good question. A lot of people are going through this. The question is, he has an 18-year-old son who's getting ready to head off to college. What would you suggest, or any tips you could give him if he gets pulled over on the way back to college? What should he do? How should he handle that situation?
First of all, when I teach my my role play classes for people, I tell them to make sure that their driver's license and the registration card is in the sleeve. What I tell my son, and he is not driving yet, but we're trying this right now this year when we're doing these tests, these classes, is have people, once they get in the car, put their driver's license and the registration in a sleeve that they have on their dashboard. And reason why is when the officer pulls you over, it's right in the sleeve. They can see where your hands are. You pull the sleeve out and you hand it to them. That's something I think is a good idea. Matter of fact, there was an officer in Baltimore that came up with that idea, and I've been using it with my my training session with civilians. I think it's good. I know sometimes people forget it, but I don't want to give any officer a chance to go ahead and pull a gun on my son or anybody else because they're reaching for their wallet in their back pocket. So what I tell people to do is, once you first get in the car, before you turn that car on, take your driver's license and registration out your wallet or out your glove compartment and put it somewhere on your dashboard. Somebody put a sleeve or Velcro on it where they can actually take it out their wallet and just stick it on there with Velcro. I think that's a good idea. But I think somewhere where you can have your driver's license and registration available in plain sight so you don't have to move around a lot. Secondly, when an officer stops you, don't even ask them why they stopped you. Just go ahead and just keep your hands on your steering wheel. Wait till they respond to you. They tell you to do commands and stuff, go along with it. They ask you to get stuff out the car, go along with it. Unfortunately, I'm telling you this because I want you to go home. Now, I will question that later on. First of all, I will question why you tell me to get out the car. Most time, the officers tell you get out the car for a couple of reasons. The first reason is because they believe they have the right to check the area where you're sitting at. Everywhere you can reach, they can check that area for a weapon. If they feel that they're unsafe or uncomfortable, they can actually pull you out of the car to search those areas to make sure you don't have no weapons. So the more you go ahead and make them feel uncomfortable, they're going to ask you to step out that car. So that means you're doing a lot of arguing with them, or you're doing a lot of gestures or moving around like that, or your eye language, like, stuff like that. You're going to make them feel uncomfortable to a point where they're going to ask you to leave the car. Stay in that car. And the way you stay in the car is by being polite. And I know it's going to eat you up. I'm telling you how to get away from that scene. Now, I'm going to tell you how to report that officer later on. Stay calm. They ask you for license and registration. Give it to them. They ask you something. Say yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. They come back to give you a ticket. You think the ticket is wrong, you just go and take that ticket because you have your day in court. or you have the right to go ahead and complain later on. Once you get away from that scene, you have things you can do. You can go to a safe spot and call for a supervisor that work that area to meet you there. That could be like a corner store that have a lot of people there, or you go to a library, or you go somewhere that has a lot of people there and ask for that supervisor to meet you there. And when you get there, you go ahead, show them the ticket, you explain to them what happened and how the officer treated you, or you can go to the station in the area and you report it in person. Most police departments going to force you, if you want to do a written complaint, to come in person. So be mindful of that. They can't actually come in person, which I think we need to go and change that. I think you should be able to get a statement notarized and sent in. Sometimes people feel uncomfortable going into a police station. So I think that was used for a deterrent to discourage people from coming in to report.
Right.
Well, that's something that need to be changed, because I have a different policy that I'm trying to work on right now with my police department, try to get rid of that. So instead of you have to come in person, if you have a complaint on my officers, you can do it several different ways. But that's what we need to do.
Okay.
Make sure that young man stays calm and get away from that scene.
Okay. Anybody? Professor J, you got a question?
Yeah. So I want to step on the other side of the fence, Chief Ayers, and thanks again for coming on tonight. How are officers being trained from present day moving forward when you know you're policing certain areas and you know how the feeling is, especially today, about a black man or black woman being pulled over? I know you say don't get an attitude, do certain things, but if officers already know that there's a certain feeling about pulling over black and brown folks, how is their training helping them to kind of stay calm and to help de-escalate a situation, even if a person doesn't follow all of those protocols to try to put their hands on the wheel, be polite and things like that? How are officers really trying to de-escalate those situations so that everybody comes out on top?
Well,
Great question.
I'll be honest with you. In the academy, you are so paranoid once you leave the academy that when I was going to church, I was carrying my gun in church. When I got to the academy, because the scenarios they put you through in the academy sometimes are like ambushes, which I tell people all the time, you're not gonna get ambushes all the time, but they put you through a lot of scenarios in the academy to a point where if you don't have a good FTO, and the FTO is a field training officer, a good FTO will go ahead and get you moved from the academy to real police work. So you ride with that FTO for in the state of Maryland, you have to do like 3 months with the FTO, field training officer. So you won't be cut loose by yourself until you go through that process. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a good FTO to decompress that or move you away from that paranoia, you're going to actually come up with a lot of bad tendencies where you take everybody as a threat, which is not good. So the problem we have is when we have bad FTOs, because sometimes some agencies don't have enough FTOs, so they will go ahead and put someone in that position. And some people don't like to have people in their car. And so it's almost like a punishment sometimes. So just think about that. So you have a person that wants you in the car with you, and he's training me. So now you got a person with the attitude that he has you in the car that he has to train. He's not giving you everything because you don't want to go to all the calls, so you miss a lot of things. Then he's having bad habits. So he's a problem child already. So because you've given him an FTO, a trainee to go with you, you think he's going to give you the right information, or he might have bad habits that rookie is getting now. Like the prime example, what happened just recently, in that scenario, that young officer was only with that FTO for 3 weeks. He just got cut loose. Mm-hmm. And his FTO was showing him bad techniques off the bat. And now he's terminated. And the other one, he was there for about 3 years. So you had young officers getting wrong information from senior officers because they are disgruntled. So you have to make sure that we as supervisors, especially first line supervisors, I think any agency, your weakest link is your first line supervisors. We need to spend more time to make sure they are held accountable and they hold their officers accountable. Because most of the time, if you see some of these sergeants, they in the office, they don't come out there, check their people. Most of the time, the corporals are running the squads. That's fine, but you have to be out there seeing what your officers doing and make sure they're training right. Right now, I have a young rookies under training right now. I can't come loose yet because I'm in a small town right now. We don't get a lot of calls for service. He's not ready. So I'm not going to put him out there when he's not ready. Some chiefs, they go ahead and he does 3 months. Okay, put him on the street. My officer's not ready yet. So he's not going to get cut loose until I believe he's ready. Because for his safety and for the safety of the community. That's called being responsible. We have a lot of agencies, they have people not responsible. They just go ahead and when the number comes up where they got enough that satisfied the certification, 3 months, let's get 3 months. I don't care if he's ready or not. Come loose. We need him out on the street. We can't do that. We can't do that. And that's the stuff that we have to change in the police department, which we're doing that right now. Like I told you, this is a turning point. Right now, you're seeing things change. And that's why I tell people all the time, I'm seeing more things change in the last couple of weeks that I thought would never change.
Wow.
Right now, a lot of departments are putting procedures in as we speak. Right now, I'm working on some of my general orders right now that I wanted to push a long time ago that I can push now that I couldn't push before because of what just happened. So his name is not going to be in vain. He didn't die in vain. You know, unfortunately, it happened to him. But this man sacrificed, and I call it a sacrifice, what happened, he lost a life, is going to make changes, major changes in the police department from now on. But you won't see a lot of officers, a lot of police departments change their ways because of what happened just recently.
Chief Ayers, I got a quick question for you. I know when Big Reg was introducing you, he mentioned that you was in the Navy. So I want to say first, thank you for your service. But my question to you is, for individuals that are actually coming from the service, do they make police good? Do they make good police officers?
It depends. It depends. We go to a psychological evaluation, but we had problems when we had a couple of wars. Because we still in active wars right now in the Navy, all the way Navy. But what I'm trying to tell people is that when you have reservists that go into theaters of war and come back, they need to be evaluated again because they come back with trauma, mental trauma. And we had a couple of shootings that happened to a couple of good officers that came back from military duty in war areas and came back and they were going through some serious problems. And we had a couple of shootings because of that. So yes, we have to evaluate these young men and women that come back from war areas, make sure they are mentally stable before we put them out on the street or put them back on the street. So yes, it has been an issue with that. So when you come on the police department, you do have to go through a psychological evaluation of what I want to be done because small agencies like mine that I'm at right now, we can't afford psychologists and psychiatrists on our police payroll. So I have to rely on chaplain corps. So what I did, I formed a chaplain corps, a bunch of chaplains that come in and actually talk to my officers on a constant basis. And each one of my officers have a chaplain assigned to them. So when they have any problems at home, they have somebody to decompress with because I can't have my officers unstable going out there and serving the people because the people out there would be punching bags and I can't have that happen. So you have to find ways to actually balance them out. And the way you do that is by having open dialogue with them. And I communicate with all my officers when they come to work. I see them, I go past them, I talk to them, how you doing? And I read them because I know my officers. I know when they're having a bad day. And I had no problem sending them home. Now, I did have a problem a couple of years ago, actually like 5 years ago when I went to a Chiefs conference. And I told them about my theory in reference to first line supervisors and sending people home. I had one chief, he came from a small department, told me he can't afford to do that. I can't send nobody home. That's stupid. I'm gonna lose money. I have to have people on the street. I have a short, line. I have holes, and I said, well, I tell you what, you either go ahead and have the hole now, or you have the hole later, because if he gets in the shooting or gets hurt, he's been gone for a while, and you're gonna have a hole, and then you're gonna have a lawsuit, or now somebody's life is gone, and it's your responsibility, chief. And I told him that. I said, it's on you because you allow that person to go on the street when he's not ready or she's not ready to go on that street. I sent my people home. I was at Capitol Heights. I sent my officer home a couple of times. When he came in there, he was going through a bad divorce, and he wasn't ready to go out on the street. I said, man, you go home, you collect yourself, man. You're not going on the street today. And
So
it's being
I know that you talk about individuals and ensuring that they're ready, but do you also have group dialogues to ensure that everyone's on the same sheet of music at the same time? Because just like you said, one bad apple can definitely hurt the bunch that is trying to do good. So do you all have group sessions to where everyone is ensuring that their mentality is ready to take on the force?
Well, I'm with a small agency, so I can afford to do that. Some larger agencies, I think, it's up to their individual supervisors, like the sergeants, the first line supervisors, to actually do it on roll call, or when they have what you call downtime, they have what you call overlap days where they're not the primary units out there. That's the time you should take to go ahead and meet with your troops, talk to them, make sure they're grounded. Make sure that you emphasize on things that you want to go ahead and make sure they understand, like the use of force continuum, how to, what levels of force you're supposed to do, or do scenarios. A lot of times, a good supervisor would do scenarios to make sure that they can see that the officers are really understanding what they're supposed to be doing.
Gotcha.
The big problem we have with small agency is that we have rules and procedures, but they don't read them. And that's the problem. And that's why I went to LexiPool. LexiPool is a group of attorneys that formulate policies and procedures by best practice across the whole country. I was able to get at Capitol Heights. I was actually the first chief in the whole state of Maryland that brought it into the state of Maryland back almost 10 years ago. Now we have several departments that have it. I just got to approve for my department here. What they do is they build your rules and procedures by best practices for one. Two, they have a training module. So that means that once a week, so every time an officer comes to work, he or she has to read a section of that general orders and be tested on it. What it does, it helps the officers know their craft and understand their rules and procedures for everything. Another thing too is so good about LexiPool is that their general orders is going to be on their cell phones. So that means that they go to a call they never had before, like ammo bite. They never had it before. They can actually type in ammo bite. It will show them the procedures, who they're supposed to contact, who they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to secure the scene, the whole 9 yards. So there will be no questions. You won't be violating nobody's rights. You won't be missing stuff. You won't be losing cases because you failed to do something. So it's very important that they understand the rules and procedures. A lot of small agencies, because they don't test for promotions, because sometimes you won't have a room for promoting somebody for several years in small agencies because it's top heavy. So what happens is you don't study. When I was with the Prince George's County Police Department, I had to study all the time because that's the way I get promoted. So we have every 6 months you can test. So you were always in the books because the general orders is one of the main things they test on. So I knew my general orders back and forth. Those small agencies, they don't read them. They sign off on them, they put in their trunks, but they never open them up. So now you have all these violations. They doing things wrong with citizens. They tell citizens wrong information, and then you have chaos. So that's another thing. We have to make sure that we have some kind of level of consistency with training on the general orders, rules, and procedures, because some things that we are doing out there are harming our citizens, and that's why citizens get frustrated because the officer is giving them wrong information. And you have to have that conflict, and now the officer, he don't want to say he's done something wrong. It's going to beef back up, and then you got a physical confrontation where a person might get injured. So those are some of the things that actually can combine and make this a powder keg.
Gotcha. Thank you for that.
Chief Ayers, before we get ready to let you get out of here, we got one main question, and I'll summarize it from the audience. And then after you answer that, I want you to tell us about some of the community policing policies that you're actually implementing in Cottage City and throughout PG County to help create a better community between police and the community. The main question about there, though, is you mentioned earlier that there's some new policies that are coming into existence that you didn't think would happen. What changes or reforms that do you think are actually going to be practical and will actually do the most good to help reform the police departments around the country?
Well, a couple of it is arresting, how to arrest. all right, and how to actually detain people. We are when I was with county police, we had a very good way of detaining people that are on high on drugs. We have called a RAP system, where a lot of small agencies can't afford a RAP system, but it's available in some of these large agencies where we detain people, we wrap them up, and we get them sit up very quickly. Because when you lay somebody on their stomach, they were dying on us. And so what happened was we learned how to place them up. Some agencies don't understand that. They don't have that in the procedures. So that's going to be put in procedures. Also, certain kind of holes around the neck area. Those are going to be eliminated. You can't go ahead and say it never happens, because if you get to the point where officer's fighting for his life, he's going to have to do what he has to do. But if you're not fighting for your life, you should be putting your hands around nobody's neck to arrest nobody. You should be putting your hands around nobody's neck to arrest nobody, unless you feel like you in fear of your life that somebody's going to kill you. And that's when you have to use deadly force, whatever means necessary. But to apprehend someone, you shouldn't be putting your hand around nobody's neck. Secondly, in reference to officers that see another officer doing something wrong, we are giving officers that feeling of support that they can go ahead and confront that officer right then and there. So instead of you go ahead and wait till the scene is over and say, hey, man, you shouldn't do that, we are putting things in our procedures now. And a lot of agencies are doing that like this week. A lot of agencies are putting that in, that they can go ahead and confront an officer right there on the scene and say no, and step in and take control. So we are giving power back to the officers that want to do the right thing, that there won't be questions by stopping the officer or stepping in. Now, getting back to community policing, my whole career was in community policing. I believe that the way you address crime is by addressing social issues. When you address social issues, crime go down. You can't lock your way out. What you got to do is provide people with a clean environment, a decent education, and a fair education. And I mean fair education. Where you got the opportunities there, opportunities for job growth, and opportunities to get a decent job to support your family, activities for children. Make sure you have drug programs, alcohol rehabilitation programs. All these things need to be inside every community, not just the wealthy communities. It should be in every community. It should be something that's a right for all, not just for a few. When you start having these healthy, initiatives, crime goes down. I proved that in Capitol Heights when I was there. I proved that now in Carter City. We feed our people, and the reason why we feed them every week is because that's a central function of a family, is to eat. If we don't feed them and they're out of their jobs, they're going to be looting. They're going to be robbing from each other. They're going to do whatever it takes to make sure their family is fed. That's why we're doing this heavy food program in Carter City right now, because we have so many people in my city have lost their jobs. And I think it's our responsibility as law enforcement to be proactive instead of reactive. Instead of waiting for people to start robbing people and locking them up, let's feed them. Let's make sure they have opportunities to make sure that we're taking care of their needs. And that's what I've been preaching my whole career. You go ahead and do that. It's been proven across the board. That's the way to do it. Not stop and frisk, not go ahead and just locking everybody up because people throwing paper around. You have to treat people like human beings and make sure they have the resources and their lives be changed by the environment, by addressing their social issues.
I just have one more question. I know Chief Ayers visited my high school for a day and talked to my African American Studies class about what to do when you do come in contact with the police, when you are pulled over. And I know that, for high school, we were seniors at the time. I know for a lot of high school seniors, especially the African American males, it's a little too late to be having that conversation with the officer when you're about to go to college and you've already had probably a handful of interactions with the police. So what age do you think is the perfect age to start having these conversations between police officers and African American children?
Well, I hope we get to, what hurts me the most, and I don't get emotional right here, we shouldn't be having that conversation. We shouldn't have to have a conversation with our kids. They should be treated like they treat white kids. Be treated like they treat wealthy kids. And the reason why I started having these conversations when I first came to the police department, because I saw that I couldn't fix it. I couldn't. When I was a young rookie, I couldn't change it. I was just a rookie. But I could make sure that I teach my brothers and sisters on how to prepare themselves when they get stopped by a police officer, that they can actually, get away from that scenario and go home to tell their parents that, hey, I got stopped by the police and this is what happened. And their parents can go in and talk for them. What happens right now is that when we don't have this talk at an early age, our young men, especially our young men, are getting charged for minor stupid charges that keep them from getting a job. It keeps them from going to college, because some colleges, they look at your rap sheet and they don't want you in there. Some of those decent colleges, you can't get a scholarship. There's a lot of things going on when you start getting locked up and charged at a young age. So we have to, unfortunately, have to have these conversations as soon as they can go ahead and start walking out the house by themselves. We need to start talking that, hey, yes, that's also friendly. He's supposed to protect you, but guess what? Sometimes you might get that officer that's not friendly. And you have to prepare for that. And this is how you prepare for that, by going ahead and say, yes, sir, no, sir. Even though it's eating you up inside, pick and choose your battles. You're not going to win that battle with that officer that has an armed weapon on his side. And I'm being real with you. You're not going to win. You're not going to win by running away from them. You're not going to win by calling out their names. You're not going to win by second guessing them or questioning them. Keep your mouth shut, unfortunately. And I hate to say that, but I want to see y'all go home alive. And I hope one day we get to a point where we don't have to have this conversation. We don't have to teach people that way. I'm just doing this right now to make sure people go home alive right now. They won't get charged. That's why I've been doing that role play my whole career, because it's unfortunate we have to do it, but we have to, because there's some officers, and there's very few, that do things the wrong way. And we have to prepare our young men and women, and even our adult men and women, that when you get stopped by the police, just submit. And I hate to say that, just submit. Keep an eye on what he's doing or she's doing. Keep mental note of it, because I want you to put it on paper and I want you to report them, because they need to be reported. And right now, they're forcing a lot of agencies to go into what's called flagging system, where these officers that keep on getting these complaints, they're going to flag them and remove them off the thing. But they can't flag people when you don't report them. So if you get stopped, I'm putting it on you. You have to report them. Report them.
Good advice.
You have to, because when you say, well, you know what, he's going to do that. No, I have seen some officers get removed because they kept on reporting. I saw some mistake, but these days they are going to be removed. Trust me.
That's what we need to hear.
You get a lot of black chiefs now. All right. And when I came on, we didn't have a lot of black chiefs. I'll be honest with you, I'll be real. Right now, we have a lot of black chiefs in this area in Prince George County. When I first became a chief in Capitol Heights, I think it was like 5 of us in the whole state of Maryland. 5 chiefs, black chiefs. Now it's probably like 7 or 8 of us in Prince George County alone. So like I said, it's the point where they're allowing more African-American chiefs. And they don't have to be African-American chiefs. They have a lot of white chiefs that are doing a great job now too. But it's the point where we have to keep the pressure up. We have to go ahead and have the officers responsible. You see a lot of chiefs now not going by the regulations. They're firing people right off the bat. And really, that's unheard of, because the unions are so strong. We're supposed to give people due process. Right now, chiefs are saying, forget that. I'm just terminating them. You sue me later on. And you've seen that a lot lately. And I'm very surprised a lot of chiefs are doing that. And I applaud them for that, because that's what we have to do as chiefs. The unions got too much control around our necks as administrations that we can't do our job, because it's so hard to fire an officer. It's ridiculous. It has to change. And the way we change is down in Annapolis. And what we got to do is we got to get our unions to back off and let our legislators down there do their jobs by putting regulations in, get rid of some of these crazy stuff like 10 days. And like I said, I've been in trouble before in the county police department. I ain't gonna lie to you. I've been on IED, but I never, I waived my 10 days. Every time I waived my 10 days. You know why? Because I knew I did nothing wrong. And if I did something wrong, I deserved it. I waived. And if anybody pull my record down there, they see that I always waive my 10 days, because I think it's unfair that I get 10 days and a person like you don't get your 10 days. And what they told me, they said, well, we give officers 10 days. You know why? Because they went through a traumatic scenario by shooting someone or by something that's traumatic for them. They need time to decompress. Well, are you going to say that? Are you going to say the same thing to that man that was home in his home, and he has a right to have a gun in his house, and someone broke in his house and he shot that person that broke in his house? Are you going to give him 10 days? No, you're not. You're going to put him in a box. You're going to ask him, oh, what's the reason? What happened? Why you shot that guy? You know, did you know that guy? Is he a friend of yours? Was he in there first? You'll ask some questions. So why you not giving him 10 days? So I think it should be a fair standard across the board. If you're not going to give a citizen 10 days, damn, you should give an officer 10 days.
Roger that. Roger that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right, Chief Ayers, before we let you go, is there anything that you would like to share with our community? I think I heard you have some an event coming up soon.
Yes, and I'm glad you keep me on pace, man, because it's going to be something that I can talk about. I have a whole 4 hours on this. But on July 11th, is a Saturday over at Carter City. We have a big field right there on the other side of the Anacostia River, right by Peace Crossing. We're going to meet there. We're going to have police officers and citizens coming there, and we're going to do a march across the bridge, around Peace Crossing, and back across the bridge. The thing, we're going to do it early in the morning because the name of it is A New Day Arising, because I want a new day, a new day of healing, a new day of moving forward. We need a new day of change. So it's called A New Day Arising, is because I believe it's time for us as good officers to step up and say that we recommit ourselves to our citizens. And so we're gonna have an open mic for all the officers that show up, and they can get on the mic and recommit to the community, because I'm gonna recommit myself to the community. I'm gonna get on the mic and say, I'm here to serve and protect, and I'm recommitting myself to the protection of my people that I'm serving. And other officers out there, they can get on the mic and recommit themselves, from the police officer up to chief of police. I don't care who it is. If you're an officer, come on out and recommit yourself to the citizens. And I want the citizens to be there because I want them to see how sincere these officers are by recommitting themselves to them. And we want to march across, singing songs across the bridge and coming back unified, and show the recommitment in a new day coming for us to reheal our trust in each other and moving forward to go ahead and reform, police reform, and all Black Lives Matter.
What time, Chief? What time?
It's going to be 6 a.m. in the morning, and we probably kick off the walk probably around 7 o'clock, and we should be finished by 8.
Fantastic. Well, Chief, I'm there. God willing, long as the creek don't rise, June 11th, I'm there with you. We really appreciate you coming on. You're more than welcome to hang out and talk sports, but I also know you're a busy man, so we're going to get into the sports talk from here.
All right.
But we appreciate your time.
No problem. I'll touch you on for a little bit to the sports, because I think we're going to have some serious problems. I don't know how some of these teams won't come back to start playing. We'll see. I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Our extreme pleasure. We appreciate your time.
I hope I answered your questions.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So, on the same subject, I just want to talk about some of the crazy things that have happened in the past week. That, like Chief Ed said, he saw some things he never thought he saw. He was seeing the police department. Some things happen in sports that I never thought we would ever see, at least not in my lifetime. NASCAR. Hats off to my man, Bubba Wallace.
Bubba.
Go on national TV, CNN, ESPN, Fox Sport 1, and talk about his situation. For y'all don't know, Bubba Wallace is the only African-American driver who's racing in NASCAR's Top Division Cup Series. And Bubba told him about how he feels and what goes on in NASCAR. And one of his things, they asked him, what would you change? And he said, the Confederate flag needs to go. 3 days later, NASCAR announced that they were no longer going to allow the Confederate flag into their events.
Wow.
Huge. So again, hats off to Bubba Wallace, Deshaun Watson, and DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, hey, Big Reg.
Okay. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I got something on Bubba Watson that I want to share with everybody.
Wallace.
Wallace.
Yeah, I said Bubba Wallace.
No, you said Watson.
But keep going. But go ahead.
That's my internet. I said Wallace.
Dude. I just keep going. We'll run it back. Go ahead.
But anyway, I think the irony of that Confederate flag situation is the people that are upset about NASCAR's decision, NASCAR's fan base, as far as removing the rebel flag and even displaying the Confederate flag in the first place, these are the same individuals that condemn Colin Kaepernick and others who choose to kneel, who choose to kneel in protest of social justice.
Well, let me give you some history about that flag. See, people don't understand.
This Confederate flag, you have to understand what it represents. What it represents as far as enslavement of people. Also, it's treason.
That's right.
You're showing your allegiance to a Confederate flag
that was against our American flag.
And it's clearly treason. It's not the American flag. But this is the type of individuals that you're dealing with. They're speaking one thing out of this side of the mouth, and on the other side of the mouth, they're saying, "Oh, I will never. You should show honor and respect to the military." But you're being dishonorable to the military because this is the military lineage, as far as if you trace back, that defeated your Confederate soldiers. So it doesn't make sense.
No,
it does make sense to them. Of course it does.
But see, if you think about it, you cannot raise that Confederate flag next to the American flag without disrespecting the American flag.
You can't do it, Chief Harris.
You can do it right at the State House. They used to do it in Georgia.
Yeah.
You can't have both. You can't have both worlds. And that's the sad thing about it.
Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins, two big-time alumni, Clemson University, wrote an open letter to Clemson that said, hey, the Honors College is named after a slave owner. What are y'all going to do about that? And they changed it the same week.
But Big Reg,
yes, sir.
They didn't change Clemson's name. Because I mean, if you think about, Clemson is named after a slaveholder. It's not like just the Honors College is, because the Honors College was named after Calhoun, and Calhoun's son-in-law, who was married. Calhoun's son-in-law is Clemson, who married Calhoun's daughter. So it's not like Clemson is. You gonna change? Are you gonna change the name of Clemson University also? You see what I'm saying? So it's more than just. It has to be more. If you really want to go the distance, then go the distance.
I feel you. They asked for one thing and they got what they asked for. Maybe true. They don't know the history.
They don't
behind the Clemson name.
Okay.
But can't the same thing be said about the Washington Redskins name?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We agree on that without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Now, matter of fact, it came back up last week. They're after for that right now.
Yeah.
They've been asking for it for as long as I've been alive. So.
But we all know that Daniel Snyder is not going to do that. He's not.
Nope.
He said it ample times. I'm not changing the name.
Well, say the same thing in NASCAR. Say take the flag down. When
the pressure hits you and it start hitting you in your pocketbook, things change.
It's going to take us. We have to take the stand.
But you know what? The beautiful thing about it is not just us no more. We got a lot of our white brothers and sisters coming up.
No, I mean football fans.
I'll be honest with you.
Football fans, not just black people. I mean football fans.
Exactly. But the reason why a lot of stuff is changing right now, and I hate to say this, is because white people are coming on board and marching with us. That's the only reason why a lot of stuff is being changed this quickly, is because they are not. And what makes it so bad is it's going across the whole world. They everywhere right now because they have shown. I was in the Navy. Going back to the Navy, I traveled the world. A lot of countries, they saw it in us a long time ago. They don't like us because we are two-faced. We say one thing and do something totally different.
That's because of the money.
It's coming out.
That's because of money. You can say anything you want, and as long as you got money to do whatever you want to do, you can say what you want to do.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
And now we got masses of people who are out there waiting and wanting change. The people in power want to control the power if we want to be real about the whole situation. But when the masses, and it can't be just us, it has to be the masses,
Has
all
been-
nationalities, white, Asian, Latino, all saying enough's enough and we done with it. And that's what's happening, like you said, Chief Ayers, all around the world. I'm sorry I cut you off, Ed.
Well, I definitely agree that, and it's welcome to see other folks marching and protesting on our behalf, our being African American community. But I think one of the issues and one of the problems I have is that we, and again, African American community, we have to stop relying on other people to advance our agendas or to look after us. We have to look after ourselves. If you want to come along, if you want to assist, that's cool. But I didn't see other minority groups having such a big concern over the African American plight until the most recent events occurred. And then you saw them on the front line. You see them out there with us and on the front lines. But so I have a little skepticism, but we talked about that already. But the thing that I'm saying is we can't depend on other folks, no pun intended, to police and to watch us. We have to do our work, because I think for the last 50 years or more, this generation has been living on the fumes and the work of our grandparents, our great-grandparents, and great-great-grandparents. And I think that needs to change.
Well, that's only going to change when we as a people come together. I mean, we don't have that unity like we should. There's still the mentality, in my opinion, the crabs in the barrel buck. I mean, the crabs in the barrel. I mean, how often do you see another person helping another person up?
Well, let me step in right here. I understand what you're saying, Mr. Johnson, but what I'm trying to tell you right now, until we have an even playing field, Black people will get frustrated to a point where they don't want to step up, because every time they step up, they get smacked back down. So we have to have other people that are in positions that are not like us to start correcting this field and make it even for everyone. Because right now we try to get loans. We don't control those banks that have loans. We don't control some of the media. We don't control some of the things. These are run by white people. And until we get them to come on board, start changing some of the things to do and make the field level, you will have more blacks stepping up, because you have blacks that want to step up, but they get tired of keep on being knocked back down constantly knocked back down. So I agree with you. We need to come together, but we have to make sure we have other people to help us get that playing field leveled, because right now it's not a level playing field.
But they're not going to come to the forefront, and they haven't stepped up yet. I mean, we talked about this last week. How long? You give me a time frame. How long do we expect these changes, or how long do we expect this help to come?
Well, it's the point where it's who we vote into office, how we back these people. Like you said before, I agree with you saying we need to do more as African Americans for our best interests, because we have been abused for so many years, especially at the polls, where these people promise us that they're going to do something for us, and then they get in the office and forget about us, and then they don't talk to us again until it's time to go ahead and reelect them again. So we have to go ahead and hold them accountable while they're in office. Like, I agree with you at that point, but we need some support from the outside to actually change some of these things that have been infested in our society for 400 years.
Yeah, the systematic oppression.
Yes.
We have to have people who are willing to help us dismantle the system.
Right, the system. We have to get somebody to change the system.
Or we got to eliminate ourselves from the system.
Exactly. Or we got to go on our own. Yeah.
I want to speak on the part where you said it's a lot of other minorities that are now at the forefront when they haven't been at the forefront till just recently.
Yes.
And I see the Twitter side of it. I see my generation's Twitter side of how they feel about it. And honestly, I can say that a lot of minorities are only starting to step up because they want to be considered people of color. And I see it a lot. I see it a lot on, Twitter, Instagram, on my side for my generation. And, while we have the Black Lives Matter movement going on, you have the Hispanics, Latinos talking about ICE and what they're doing and all those children that went missing. And they are saying, where were y'all when we were losing our kids? And a lot of us said we was right there with y'all. We
Well,
were
hold
right
on,
there with y'all when y'all
Jay
was
Manny,
y'all.
if you want to answer that, and I don't want to get too controversial tonight,
Yeah, we won't get too in the weeds.
Right.
but
Go ahead and say what you got to say.
but many of the freedoms that they enjoy, and you can pick your minority. I'm not going to single any minority out.
Right.
Any minority in this particular country, they owe a debt to black folks.
Agreed.
And if
Agreed.
and if they don't believe me or they don't believe you, tell them to open up a book. And,
Right.
and then if they still don't believe you, tell them to call me. You got my number.
I know. Ready. I know we get off the subject, but all this stuff is intertwined right now. And I had a person that got in an argument with a guy about all lives matters, and what this guy came up and said. And I'm gonna give you this thing because I use this now. What this guy told him and bucked him and said that, I tell you what, yes, all lives do matter, but guess what? Everybody has houses on your street. Your house is on fire. Who has the problem now? The house on fire. Right now, black people's house on fire. So right now, Black Lives Matter right now. Yeah, you might have a house, young man, but your house is not on fire. Our house is on fire. We need your help right now.
Good analogy.
People have to realize that, yeah, you have a life, you have a house, but your life or your house is not on fire. It's not being attacked right now. Ours are being attacked. So it's very important to understand that. So when somebody says Black Lives Matter, it's not saying that no lives matter other than that. Is that right now our house is on fire. And we need you to put our house out.
I feel you. I've heard that same example. Continuing on the sports realm, let's talk about these sports trying to reopen. Now, we've had some successful ones. Golf came back last week. PGA Tour had their first tournament. Boxing showed out. Hats off to Shakur Stevenson for getting his first win in the comeback with a vicious body blow to the liver, knockout in the 6th round. I mean, if you didn't see it, you got to YouTube that. That was crazy. But then we got basketball. For the past couple of weeks, we've been saying we getting basketball in July. I don't know now, fellas.
I heard a couple players really want to the whole season be scrapped.
Yeah, that's Kyrie Irving and that other guy.
It's more than them.
Not the other guy.
Yeah. It's a growing faction
he stole money
inside the NBA, and most of them are younger players that don't have the clout to speak up against a LeBron or Kawhi, but Jay Minnie's people want to fight. They want to continue this push. And I mean, if you think about it, they've got a valid point. Do we really need basketball?
Here's my take as far as I thought you were done, Big Reg.
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna be on Kyrie's side on this. And I think Kyrie is obligated to say, hold on. There's an other side to consider. Basically, all Kyrie is doing is saying, if you see something, say something. And if there was something in that agreement, and he's a VP. If everyone doesn't know, he's a VP of the VPs of the Players Association Union. And so it's his obligation to not just say, okay, yeah, let's sign off on this. It's his obligation to present the entire picture and to give a scenario of what, hey, this might not be the best thing that we could be doing right now. It could be totally wrong, but at least he's presenting the fact, he's presenting the information for the players to decide, not just the top 10 or 15 or whatever number it is, superstars. Well, so it's a union. It's a union. It's a players union. It's not a couple players union. It's the entire league's players union. Yep. So Kyrie is actually doing the right thing, whether we agree with him or not. I think it's the right thing that he's doing.
Man, I hear you, but I always considered a source. A man that thinks the world is flat and all this other ignorant stuff that he does just to show himself whatever he wants to be. I mean, him being the messenger in all of this just rings a little bit hollow with me. And it's not just about a few players, but we know that if MVPs of the league want to play, the league is going to play. My thing is, I want him to be a little bit more transparent. Now, saying that you want to be about the movement, I'm sorry. Can't you be about your job and the movement at the same time? I think I can multitask like that. I know he can as well. So him and Dwight Howard, which I don't even know why he's opening his mouth, coming to the forefront trying to say maybe we shouldn't play. I like what Austin Rivers said. He said, look, the majority of the players in the league don't make that top dollar like that, and he's one of them. He wants to get back so he can earn his money to support his family. Doesn't he have the right? I wish Johnny was on here. Doesn't he have the right to support his family and that lifestyle that his skills afforded him to have? But you got people that want to go across on the other side. Okay, if you don't want to play, the NBA is saying don't play. But the rest of the league that wants to play should be able to go forward and to compete for a championship, because that's the name of the game. If folks decide in this free country called America that they want to chance it and go out there and play basketball or work, I think they should have the right to do that.
I hear you. So you basically got three factions right now, the way I see it. You got the LeBron Kawhi faction, who are on championship caliber squads, and they like, we want to finish this and try to get this ring. You got the Kyrie faction, who are primarily younger players who don't feel they have the voice, but want their voice heard, and whether they come back or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the Jaylen Brown faction, the young guys who are up for contracts, and they're asking the NBA to basically finance loss of wage insurance policies for them, because if they come in and get sick or get hurt in this compressed season, they could possibly lose tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. So until they get all this worked out, I don't think July 30th going to happen.
Well, one of the things that hasn't been said is, like, when we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, and they made all these announcements about the NBA is coming back. The parameters of a comeback was agreed on, but nothing was never official. That's why all these people can come in now and say, hey, let's look at this a little closer. But one of the main things that hasn't been solved, and J3, this is right up your alley. One of the main things that hasn't been solved is that they haven't agreed on the health factor, the health and safety factors. That whole issue hasn't been addressed yet, or agreed upon, or actually even addressed yet. So that alone, outside of the economics of it all, that alone to me is probably the most important thing that has not been resolved yet, even though a fictitious date has been set.
And then you add on to that Florida's in a rise in their counts of coronavirus. Yeah. So go ahead, J3.
I was getting ready to say, so speaking of individuals and their health, I mean, you already had one major player from the Utah Jazz say that he had the coronavirus. So what happens if you have multiple individuals catch the virus, even if they're in a confined area? Because again, there still is no vaccine. So unless you're getting tested every day, all day, how do you know if you actually have it and if you're a carrier?
Supposedly the protocol is they're going to be tested every other day. And if somebody tests positive, they're out. Period. And then they'll do the tracing, and whoever they've been in close contact with, which will be basically all their teammates. If one of their teammates tests positive, they're out.
Mm-hmm.
So you literally could have star players get sick with the virus and can't play anymore.
And what happens if you have multiple players on multiple teams have the virus and they can't finish the season? Then what?
That team's out.
I'm talking about multiple teams, not just one team. I'm talking about multiple teams. Then what's going to happen? Are you still going to try to continue on with the season? have a playoff with no damn teams? That doesn't make any sense.
Good question. Good question. We've all tried to. How many is too many? How many people got to get sick before they shut it down again? Does somebody have to get hospitalized? Does somebody have to go on an event before they say it's too much of a risk?
Guy Markey said G League.
Maybe they're gonna have some hospital beds on the side just in case they catch it. They go ahead and put them on there so they can still be a part of the team and watch them go up and down the court while they in their bed. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna see if the bubble works, won't we?
I don't know if they ever get to the bubble. If Florida continues at the rate it's at now, they're gonna have to shut Florida down within the next few weeks.
Hey,
Florida's
maybe
getting
they might join
2,000
UFC
cases
on
a
that
day.
island. I'm sorry, I had to throw that in there because you know my man White is a gangster.
And you just mentioned something, Reg, about shutting it down. So I actually heard the other day that Florida was supposed to have been opening up the state, and now they're getting ready to shut it back down because of
it's
increase
terrible.
of the virus. So again, where is this going?
Good question. Good
And
question.
you know, doggone well, no, these high profile NBA players gonna stay on no daggone quarantine area. They're gonna be out there partying.
But Ezekiel Elliott,
Girls partying, they're infected. The whole league been affected by 2 weeks. Trust me.
Somebody gonna have a boat and they're gonna party on the boat.
Mhm.
And that's the reason why they want to have it down in Florida.
Wow.
right?
It should
But
put them
since-
in Alaska. That's where you need to put them.
But one of the interesting things is like a lot of these new cases, and as far as the uptick, as far as cases, people getting sick, it's not really being reported. It's actually being pushed aside because of what the social issues that we're going through right now as a nation.
Yep.
Like so it's actually being underreported. And the thing is they keep saying that there's going to be a second wave come the fall, but I don't even think it's going to take that long because you know, just my observation as far as our community, and I see the basketball courts are full. I see the jogging paths are full. Like no one's wearing masks, no one's taking safety precautions that I can see. Now they might be, but maybe they have invisible masks on. I don't know, or you know, but. It's not going to take that long. I'm telling you, it's not. We're in June, the middle of June. I say by August, everything will blow up.
Next, not to mention that Six Flags is doing testing on the amusement park site. They're doing testing as they're hiring people getting ready to open up.
Daniel Snyder.
Ain't no way.
Daniel Snyder.
You got to
How
be.
are you testing people in the same place that you're hiring people? Am I missing something?
Yeah. Some people just don't believe with 117,000 people dead, and they're estimating 200,000 by October.
Well, if we shut the whole country down like we should, like everybody else is doing over there in Europe, shut the whole country down for at least 2 weeks, we wouldn't be in a mess right now. The problem is he didn't have the gonads to actually step up and shut things down like he should. And he's not going to do that because he's worrying about himself. He's selfish. He's worrying about re-election. He's not worrying about people like you and I or other people. He's worrying about him getting reelected. He's trying to please certain people like these churches, big church groups that support him, and these billionaires. That's all he's worrying about. And that's why we're in the mess we're in right now, because he can't make any strong decisions that's going to benefit the whole, not a few.
Where is Dr. Fauci at? We need him.
Fauci.
New Jersey getting hit like Texas. Lord forbid, Texas getting hit hard. Arizona's getting hit hard.
Arizona, yeah.
Oklahoma's getting hit hard now, and they're getting ready to well, let me move on from that. Somebody mentioned Ezekiel Elliott earlier. That brings us to the next subject. College football, pro football players to start and report to their complexes. And every team is having multiple players test positive.
Yeah.
I don't see how football gets played.
I don't know how any sports get played. Right now, my son, he's got scholarship over at in West Virginia, and they still balancing if he's going to bring them in for training for summer training, and he's supposed to go in August. Right now, they started letting these kids start hitting this campus early. We won't have major breakouts on these campuses because they live on top of each other. They're in dorms. You're going to have some serious problems on these universities and these campuses.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. So
because all right now, all fall sports, they're going back in August for training, for conditioning and training.
Jesus. And I got a freshman going to college. Oh God.
Gonna be scary. It's gonna be scary. All right, let's hit this last subject before we get ready to get out of here. I don't know if you guys caught it, but again, Florida's trying to get all the money. They snuck in a rush through bill for the name, image, and likeness that will allow NCAA athletes starting next July 2021, to be able to profit from their name, image, and likeness, which is 2 years ahead of California's law that kind of started this ball rolling again, and way before the NCAA was ready to do it. So
they ain't trying to keep their athletes in the state. You know, they trying to keep the green bloods in the state, man.
They're trying to keep them from Alabama, Ohio State.
They need FSU, Miami.
The breeding ground for most athletes are from what? Florida, Texas, and California. And what's happening right now, those jokers are trying to keep their daggone people in Florida. That's all.
And you're absolutely right, Chief Ayers. It's ridiculous to believe that they have the athlete's best interest at heart. But that's the way that's the way the Florida governor framed it. It's like, but if you really sit back and think about it, except for the University of Miami, these are state schools. This money is funneled directly to the state coffers. Your state school.
University of Florida State, absolutely.
So
should we be doing that? I'm sorry, y'all.
But see what happens, I'll be honest with you, that's the reason why they're doing it, man. They want to keep all their people in the state.
Yeah.
So if they bring that to Maryland, you think people are still gonna go to University of Maryland?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No. J Manny, stop.
Absolutely.
No. Coming from
why you do us like that?
Leave Mike Locksley alone. He building a program.
Stop. One of the strongest AAU conferences in the whole United States, and we can't keep
okay.
In the
and my high school, my high school won state championships 3 years in a row. Ain't none of them go to Maryland.
Wow.
None of them. All of them went to JUCOs, and I think we had one to go to Florida State.
Wow.
So I just can't. I'm baffled. Baffled.
Yeah. Maybe we should go Hogan until Hogan go ahead and pass one real quick. Maybe
you laughing, Chief Ayers. One thing I know for sure: Alabama ain't gonna lay down for this. Ohio ain't gonna lay down for this.
Ohio State, right?
Texas ain't gonna lay down for this.
Michigan,
California will move up their bill. They already passed the law. They just got changed the date. So everybody, all the big schools, gonna be like, y'all gonna let me lose all these players? Don't y'all like coming to the stadium?
Money. It's all about that money.
I'm trying to go to West Virginia and find me a daggone pizza place going to do my son. Run around with pizza.
I'm sure it's out there.
You want your pizza to do it fast?
That's funny. Hey Ed, I know you had a little research on the same topic, but specifically talking about Zion. Why don't you break us off about the Zion situation?
So basically, Zion is involved in a lawsuit against this woman named Gina Ford of Prime Sports. She's out of Miami, And basically, the lawsuit, it could be summed up is this. Zion signed with her shortly after declaring for the NBA draft. She's a marketing agent who would be responsible for his sponsorships and his endorsement deals. Shortly after that, the very next month, he had a chance to look over it and decided that this was a bad deal. So he immediately sued to get out of this contract only because she threatened his new agency, which is CAA, Creative Artists. I think Creative Artists. I think that's the name of the
Creative
agency.
Artists Agency. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, he sued her to get out of it. So basically, under the guise of a North Carolina law, which is called the Uniform Athlete Agent Act, or UAAA, and basically that is a law that North Carolina created to prevent like shady characters or agents from being able to sign these athletes without going through the proper protocol, which is number one, they have to be registered in North Carolina. Number two, they have to be certified by the NBA. And number three, they have to provide a letter in boldface print and also capital letters stating to the athlete, which would be Zion, stating that if you come with us, you will be ineligible to participate in college athletics. So basically, Gina Ford is the only leg she has to stand on is to prove that Duke University, that Zion was never an amateur, that she was actually paid to get to go to Duke, and that could be through homes, etc., cash, etc. So anyway, it's a big mess, and that's where we are as far as the litigation is concerned. With Zion.
And how much she's suing Zion for?
$100 million.
100 million.
100 million.
She crazy.
That tells you how much they think he's worth. Well, you know, his Jordan deal is worth about $60 million. Just the Jordan deal. So she's talking about future earnings. But what she wants to do, which is, I hope it happens, she's trying to depose Mike Krzyzewski, Nike, Adidas, Jordan brand, and she says she's got proof that his mama was getting paid from the shoe companies while he was still in high school. Which brings us back to name, image, likeness. If he was able to just make money off of his name, image, likeness when he had millions of followers, never would have happened.
My question to Zion is, why did you sign with them in the first place? If you had any reservations, why didn't you investigate them before you actually signed on that dotted line? What made you jump to the gun and sign that contract?
Yep, there you go, Chief Ayers.
Oh yeah,
there you go.
Because too many hands was in the cookie jar.
When you starving and somebody give you a bowl of soup, it's the best damn soup you ever had in your life.
There you go. Because it's alleged that her agency gave Zion's parents, well, his mom and stepdad, gave him $100,000. So
they went from living in their little small city in Georgia in an apartment that cost, excuse me, slip of the tongue.
Sorry, FCC.
Slip of the tongue. $1,000 a month apartment to a $5,000 a month house in Durham, North Carolina.
Beautiful city.
While he was at Duke. And that's a beautiful area. If you've ever been to Duke, it's a beautiful area. They ain't get no new jobs. But they was in a house that cost $5,000 a month. I'm just saying. So do you think the NCAA is really going to investigate this? They're going to try to take the big Mike Krzyzewski down? They still haven't done anything about Kansas. And the FBI got Kansas on tape.
Wiretap, yep.
Well, they've come after Duke before, but it's not going to work.
Right.
It's not going to work. Duke is too well connected. Coach K is an icon.
Of course.
They're not coming after Duke.
Yep. Agreed.
Can't stand them, but they're not gonna get them.
But there's a lot of shady things in college football, and that's just known. That's just a known thing. Like I know
College
a lot
sports
of
in general.
yeah, like I know a lot of college athletes that are not living the same way they were at home.
Well, they
Hey,
get a lot of money. These smaller schools like
I don't know what you're eating, but they didn't have that food in the cafeteria.
but that's the boosters, man. The boosters be putting that money up. They come up there, give them little side jobs and stuff. They move my car around the block. You know, I need you to babysit my kids for a day. You know, they find kind of ways to get money. The boosters are a big problem for a lot of these major programs. The boosters are strong. They put some money into that stuff. They want to be winners.
Yes, they've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. All right, folks. We ran a little long today, but it was a good topic. Again, thank you, Chief Ayers, for coming on and really giving us a voice of what good policing should be like and what we can look forward to and some of the changes that we need to look forward to and to ask in this movement. Before we get out of here, does anybody have anything that caught their eye this week before we give our final post?
yes, sir. Mine is going to begin with what Chief Ayers said. What caught my eye is a new day arising on July 11th, 2020, beginning at 6 a.m. I think we all need to support that, y'all. Go ahead and come out.
Absolutely. Anybody else got anything that caught their eye?
Yeah, what caught my eye was this guy. The police, individuals need to understand that they're not police. They're not law enforcement. Let's leave law enforcement to law enforcement. We had a situation where a Colorado State football player got held at gunpoint while he was on his job by a citizen who said he was a suspicious man in the neighborhood. And I'm not going to go into the full details, but the point is that these individuals have to stop doing this. Then you'll have a situation like Trayvon or Arbery, and this has to stop. We're not cops. If you want to be a law enforcement officer, go to the academy or fill out the application. But this has to come to an end.
I hear you. Johnny, Johnny, who's usually with us, sent in Chuba Hubbard. We didn't get a chance to talk about him, but hats off to Chuba Hubbard for calling out his head coach at Oklahoma State about wearing a very insensitive T-shirt out there. We got you, Johnny.
He knew.
He definitely knew.
Yeah, he knew.
Definitely knew. My last two things before we get out of here. Top Rank Boxing, for all you boxing fans. Boxing's back live tonight. Started at 8 p.m. It's already on ESPN. Check it out. The headliner is Joshua Greer Jr., Mr. Nighty Night, against Mike Plania. And the U.S. Open, USTA, and the governor of New York said they're going to play the U.S. Open. August is a long way away, so we'll see. We'll see. All right, fellas and ladies, it's time for our last post of the evening. Let's start with Miss J. Minnie. What you got for me, J. Minnie?
My birthday's next Tuesday. That's what I got.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, dear. All right, what you got for us, Professor J?
Hey, y'all just continue to be blessed. Please continue to support the show. We thank you immensely for your support.
Absolutely. Ed, what you got for me?
Hey, Friday is Juneteenth Day in America. Let's all pause for a moment of silent meditation on that sacred day.
Amen. Support.
Amen. Chief Ayers, you got a final post for us?
Yes, a new day rising. I believe we at a turning point right now with police reform. I think we need to keep foot on the pedal and keep on moving forward.
Absolutely. Your lips to God's ears, absolutely. J3, what you got for me?
Again, I want to thank Chief Ayers for coming out and speaking on our program today. We truly appreciate your words of wisdom, and I also want to say that if you don't do anything in your community, you're wrong. If you don't help somebody in your community, you're wrong.
There
And
you
if you
go.
don't know who your community leaders are, you're wrong. So take this time to learn something, know somebody, and do something for somebody else.
And vote.
Home run.
And vote.
And my last final post of the evening is we got some words of wisdom this evening from Chief Ayers. We really appreciate it. While it may not be right, you may not want to do it. For right now, be safe. Things are changing. The world's changing, but it's not going to change overnight. And we'd rather not have you as a hashtag or see you on Facebook or Instagram because something bad happened to you. Do what you got to do to get home. Be safe. And then, as Chief Ayers said, report it, post it, do whatever you have to do, and then let the world come help you get out of that situation. We'd like to thank you all for tuning in and listening. We appreciate your time and opportunity to share our positions on sports with you. Please tune in next Tuesday at 7 p.m. for our next live show. You can also download this show and previous shows on Facebook and our YouTube channel. Please subscribe, follow, and like both our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. And if you could please share this with your friends, family, and social media network, we'd be truly appreciative. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you. We thought this was a very important subject. Again, we'd like to thank Chief Ayers for coming out this week. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Have a great week. Be safe. From the Post crew, we appreciate you. Love you. Peace.
God bless you.
Bye.
And we